Hello everyone. Welcome to the Thought Leadership series by Quadrant Knowledge Solutions, where we are going to invite the business leaders to talk on the leadership perspectives in different areas. So in today's episode, we are discussing about the leadership perspective in IoT and digital transformation area, and I'm happy to welcome today's guest speaker, Mr. P.V. Sivaram. Hello, Mr. Sivaram. Welcome to the Thought Leadership Show by Quadrant Knowledge Solutions. So, just want to give a brief profile about today's speaker. Mr. Sivaram is a technology evangelist, and he has been the advisor and mentor in C4i4, that's the Center for Industry 4.0, which is the Government of India initiative under the Department of Heavy Industry. Mr. Sivaram has been, he was the managing director of B&R Automation, and he was also the non-executive chairman of the same company. So, welcome to the show, Mr. Sivaram.
Thank you, Jitkar.
So today we are going to talk on the business leadership perspective in the IoT and digital transformation area. So to start with, I would like to focus on this business leadership perspective. How has it changed? How is it is today and in the pre-digital area?
Well, you see, a lot of things have changed, right? I mean, it is not just any one particular dimension that is the digital and pre-digital. It's not like BC and AD. There has been an evolution. And as an evolution, I would like to think more in terms of not just digital, but the entire gamut of Industry 4.0 versus the previous one, which today, in hindsight, we like to call it as Industry 3.0. Although at that time, we never had this word called Industry 3.0.
Okay.
So, in this sense, now the primary change in the way we think about business is to recognize that we are all part of a supply chain.
Correct.
You see, earlier we used to have a thing that we are the company, we are the manufacturer, and the other guys are my supply chain. But today we know that we are all part of some supply chain, and the same kind of strategies, more or less, apply to all of us. So therefore, it becomes more reflexive in terms of dealing with your partners.
Correct. Correct. You have seen the industry like automation technologies and the manufacturing industry very closely, how it is evolving. So, do you think the approach towards the investments in the Industry 4.0 or digital transformation has undergone a change, drastic change, because of the pandemic that has created some kind of disruption in the market dynamics as well as the business strategies?
See, the pandemic was a one-off event which has hit us without any warning. So the moment it happened, then we had to scramble around and see how to continue business as usual. Okay, so a lot of strategies were being thought about, and then somewhere down the line, after a few months, we realized that it is not even business as usual, because now it's a new business altogether. What was in demand earlier, today maybe not in demand. Suddenly there was a huge amount of demand for things like face masks and oxygen cylinders and stuff like that. And many people had to change their manufacturing setup to cater for the new demand.
Correct.
So at this point in time, the very, very fundamental fact which came up was the problem of scaling. That how do you manufacture different manufacturing volumes while staying profitable? For example, if you have created a setup to make say 100 units per day, and now suddenly you have to scale down to 10 units per day, how do you still continue to be profitable?
True.
Right? So this was the primary business knowledge that we got, insight that we got. Mm-hmm. And it was also very clear that this was not going to be handled by the previous management techniques. New management techniques were needed. The new management needed different tools, and the primary tool in this case was data.
Correct.
So therefore, this word called data has become suddenly so important.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I just came across recently one of the surveys by Telecommunication Industry Association, where they predicted earlier that IoT will be the mainstream enterprise element in many industries, and in 2021 on an average the IT budgets will be like out of the full IT budgets, almost 50% of these budgets will be dedicated to IoT projects, its maintenance and development. So do you see that's happening, or that has already started happening?
First of all, I have a quarrel with this original statement itself, that the deployment and maintenance of IoT should be part of an IT budget.
Yes,
The
correct.
function of IT is different, the function of IoT is quite different. Yes, the IT people have been closest to this kind of technology and the devices, and maybe to the vendors, and therefore they take the lead in procurement. But the strategic planning of IoT should be elsewhere. It should be with the business, with the people, the CXOs,
Right.
not just the IT. And it is also unfair to apportion the budget to the IT, because when we want to deploy IoT, it is not just inserting some small blinking boxes at various places in your organization. It also means something of a change in the procedures and the systems also,
True.
right? And they also need a budget, and therefore this budget should be something different.
Correct.
And I would say that not just IT, but I would say that there must be a digital transformation office for every enterprise who will coordinate all these things, be it manufacturing, be it services, and with these elements of IT which come into it.
Correct.
These things should come together. So it is not just a matter of telecom, it's not just a matter of CPUs, it is something bigger than that.
Correct. Well said. Okay. Like the digital transformation or IoT, to that matter, it was a buzzword few years back, but slowly it became the necessity.
Yeah.
And so, do you think it has again undergone a change in its meaning or in its strategic implementation? And there were some challenges or kind of barriers earlier for implementation of those technologies. Do you think those challenges or barriers are still there, or these challenges have been modified to some other extent?
See, since you started the question with a buzzword, yeah, there is a small nursery rhyme. You see, so, it says, "Watch those funny phrases go. Look at their strange antics. The people who make them go are the teachers of semantics."
Right.
See, if you don't have semantics, if you don't have the clarity of what word means what, then actually further conversation becomes kind of garble.
True.
So similarly, digital transformation, IoT, Industry 4.0, all of these things are used very, very interchangeably without people able to say what is the difference between one and the other.
True.
And therefore it's a very muddled conversation. And since the words are not clear, people already know what it is about. But actually, many people do not have a visualization of, if I bring this box home today, how will I fit it into my factory? How the working of my factory will change after it has come in. See, this is still, so therefore at the end of this day, what has happened is that it is still push sales. That the salespeople come out there, they bring a box with them, and they try with all means to somehow sell it. It is not a pull project where the industry says, "Look, I have this problem, and can you come and help me to solve it?" It is still not happening in that manner. The imagination is still not fired by this, capabilities of super smart, tiny little computational elements with very good communication capabilities with each other, and there is a big huge brain of analytics sitting behind the cloud. How this whole thing can actually create a real change in the way I work, the way I deal with my customers, my vendors, my supply chain, my employees. This is still not really fired up.
Okay.
We are still talking about niche solutions, talking about one problem at a time.
Correct.
Right.
So overall, as a package, it was not addressed even before and not even now.
Not even today.
Okay.
I'm not seeing people having this kind of vision. How would I do this?
Okay. And what about the complexities involved while aiming at a successful digital transformation? What should be the business leader's perspective or strategies towards addressing these complexities?
See, the business leader, according to me, should start with a statement of his vision and purpose. Why am I doing this?
Correct.
Because most frequently when we bring a new technology into an enterprise, the employees first of all ask this very valid question: what is in it for me?
Yes, that's very important.
If you don't answer that, then actually there will be a passive resistance. You can push it through, you can try to hammer it through, but it will not come with a very great cooperation. So therefore, you must have very, very clearly your view of why am I doing this? For what am I doing this? And it cannot only be corporate level benefits. It also has to be individual level benefits. Secondly, when you want to do some things, for example, you say, I want to enhance my customer experience. Now, what is the customer journey? What is the amount of research you have done to figure out what is the customer journey? What is the customer wanting from us? And in this case now, very frequently now we get stuck. There are some really business leaders who have done some very good work. But the rest of us, we are feeling that it is good for their industry. It is not good for my industry or my product. My customer may not want it. But it's not true. If you have experienced a comfort with a completely different service or product, you translate that expectation to everybody.
Yes.
See, if somebody has ordered a material from me, and I have to deliver it within 3 days, the customer would say, if I order a Ola, I can see when the car is coming, how far is it away. So why can't I see when my product is coming, how far is it away? Everybody asks for that.
Correct.
So this visualization of the customer journey, customer experience is also a very, very important factor.
Perfect.
Yes.
So that visualization, that relates me to the next question. This IoT won't be complete without talking about IT and OT convergence. So how this IT and OT convergence can benefit organization to make these organizations real-time information-driven companies, and how can get the most from this convergence?
Yes. Now these IT and OT traditionally have grown as independent silos.
Yes, true.
See, the IT is sitting in the corporate office, and the OT is in the dirty, factory shop floor somewhere. And this maintenance department, which is kind of seen more as a cost than any profit.
Yes.
Whereas, so these things are there. Today we are looking at somehow making them work in tandem. But this somehow, what is that somehow? Okay, one is, as I said, since IT people are very close to the vendors of these electronics, they are looked to drive the thing. But the OT people say, this is not what I wanted at all. You have brought some box, but kis kaam ka hai?
True.
In fact, you have increased my work rather than making my job easier. Now, suppose we want to give a new employee, because in these days of very high churn rate of employees, onboarding new employees is a big task. It's a very expensive task. How does this digitalization help me to do this in an economic way, in a quick way, right? The old days of, you say I do, and then we do, and then you do. Say this was the traditional way of training. Today that takes too long.
Yes.
And you can't repeat it every 2 months.
Sure.
Whereas the churn rate is like that. Yeah. So the real, you have to do a ABC analysis of what are my pain points and tackle those pain points which are seriously hampering the productivity of the people.
Correct.
At first, not what is glamorous.
True.
Because in the journey of digitalization, just let me take one more minute, there are 4 quadrants, let me say. We all start as beginners, right? And then there is a technology leadership, and then there is a management leadership, the 2 axes. Now, as we move forward as a beginner, we can see that there is one place where there are the conservationists land up, and they say what we are doing is already good enough. Why do you want to do something else?
Right.
And they say we are running our company. It's a very neatly run ship. It's a tight ship. Everything is under control. It's fine, and we will see. We will wait, and we will see if 100 other people are done. Then we will, join on to it. On the other end, there is another aspect where people say, "Oh, it's a new technology. All the big and best companies are doing it. So hum bhi kharid lete hain." They will buy it, and they will not keep it inside their office, inside with the workers. They keep it behind the reception in a glass box, so that if some VIP visitor comes, they'll say, "We have everything.
Right.
We have a robo, we have a AR, we have a VR, we have this." So these are called the fashionistas.
True.
They, like buying the biggest new TV kind of thing, and
Yes.
but it does not become part of your daily activity cycle. Right? So these are the two traps. You have to avoid and navigate your way between these and really make every employee see a benefit of using these gadgets.
Correct.
And definitely all the different gadgets which are shown in these presentations are not useful for your company.
Right.
You have to be, also smart and strong enough to say no. We don't want this. This is what we want. Right?
Correct. Thanks for your very insightful interaction. You really put in a lot of perspectives from the leadership point of view on various things, and I think your huge experience. You have seen the industry growing and evolving. You have seen the ups and downs in the industry. That really made a good difference while putting on these thoughts. So thanks again. It was pleasure having you in our show.
Thank you,
Thank
Jitkar.
you.
It was nice to talk to you.
Thank you. So friends, do subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch out this space for more such interesting discussions with more business leaders coming in. Thank you.